Recording on the res.
All right. All right. Good morning. Welcome to another session. We ended off last week sort of talking about, the flow of relationships with your clients and database, things like that. But I just thought we'd start off with how did everybody do this week with diving deeper into your database? And
I sent some WhatsApp messages.
so you sent some WhatsApp direct messages?
Yeah, usually more of my clients are on WhatsApp.
Okay.
Text or email.
Yeah.
So I tried a little bit of, depending on which client is where.
Okay.
There's some updates, and I said, well, Happy New Year, I already sent earlier.
Right.
But now I just followed up with the New Year saying that, this is a perfect time to, if opportunity to buy.
Okay.
I feel it's already bottomed out. Unless something drastic would happen in the US, with the US.
Right.
Our market will at least hold. I don't think it'll drop more.
Okay.
But I mean, there's mixed reactions out there. I think Realty said it's gonna go up. But again, everybody's different. Some people are saying it's going down.
Right. But so you used WhatsApp to communicate
Some of
to some of the
some
people.
of-
Okay, good. Any other actions that people took between last week and today? Working and talking with the database, yeah.
It was our birthdays for me. Like I talk because a lot of people send happy birthday messages, so it's just a way to
That's
talk
one
to
way to
people.
start.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
And,
especially from ones you haven't heard from in a while.
yeah, so at least two people I found out will eventually want to buy.
Okay.
So it's just a good opportunity. People are already talking to me to talk to them as well.
Okay, so they contacted you for your birthday. Are they in your database and have you been following up with them on other stuff, or it's just happened to be new contacts?
No, there are people in my database that I've been talking to as well.
Okay.
And then it's just a further conversation.
Okay, good. What else did anybody do between last week and this week as we were talking about, the flow, and I'm gonna dive deeper into that today. But just before we go on with that conversation, what did anybody else do?
I didn't do very much, to be honest with you, Scott. I was busy with putting new listings up for the last week.
Well, that's a happy problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a happy problem.
So
Good.
sorry to hear about that. Wow. So sorry.
Good. Okay, so the one of the things that you have to look at more, and we're gonna dive into it a lot deeper, but look at anything that, we talked about really getting to know your database, okay? And really understand who they are. That was the discussion we had last week. So I can tell you that I have in my database, for those of you that don't know, I like NFL football. So I have my team and I have some of my clients, and I make sure I go through my database, and I haven't done a great job of it, but I certainly have 5 or 6 people in my database that I know, follow, and have a favorite NFL team. So I took the opportunity of reaching out to them because, one, if their team, at the beginning of the year, I always reach out and say, hey, good luck this year. And then now that it's gone into the playoffs, I reached out to anybody that I know in my database that their team was in the playoffs, and just text them and say, hey, that was a great win, or sorry for your loss, that kind of stuff. Had nothing to do, right? Had nothing to do with real estate, right? To where I actually have one of my clients where I sold her, I got to know her through her husband, who was a referral to me. Well, it turns out that she's a huge New Orleans football team fan, right? So at the beginning of the year, it was, hey, good luck, and, she knows I'm a Rams fan. Well, she texted me and said, hey, hopefully your Rams can pull it off this weekend. Good luck. That's the kind of relationship that you need to have that they reference to flow. Okay? So look at events that are going on that have nothing to do with real estate and communicate personally. Okay? And we're going to get into, I've got some really good information for you today on time, numbers, things like that. But I just want to sort of recap on that's really the type of relationship that you need to build. So I can pretty well tell you the ones I'm texting with when it comes to football, I'd be really, really surprised if they did any other real estate with anybody else. Okay? Because I want to, and I make sure they're all getting my newsletter. And they're gonna get a lot more stuff from me, so because I really want to make sure I keep that flow going to the point where one of the ones that I was texting back and forth with, who I sold her parents' place in the fall, they're now starting to look for a place. I made sure I reached out to them about the football game, and we're having dinner Saturday night when we're up north. Okay, so those kind of actions is really what you need to be doing in your database. Okay, so did anybody do any of that this week? Were there any events that you were at? Were there anything that you communicated with that you could share that you did? Okay, well then all of you are on them. Oh, well, who's talking?
Julia.
Okay, Julia.
Yeah, I'm still doing the whole political thing, so it works for me. Just having conversations with volunteers about getting ready for 2026 and canvassing and doing all the stuff that we do politically. And I did get a referral from one of them, a buy between 3 and 4 million. So I hope I had my first call with them, and hope I can secure that. It's a little early days, but yeah, that's my my pillar. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. All right. So if nobody has anything else to share on what you did, then let's jump into this. Okay. So we've talked about, really the relationship is the important part. The real estate is actually secondary. Okay. We talked about flow, and to really understand the flow, I'm going to go back to either a football game, a hockey game, a sporting event. You'll hear about afterwards, they'll interview the coach, or you'll hear some of the analysis will be, well, the flow of the game changed. Okay. And really what they're talking about is the momentum, right? And really momentum is doing things. How do you create momentum? Is you do things consistently to be able to get stuff moving. And then as you're doing it consistently, once it's already moving, it moves easier. Okay, because you're doing something consistently. So when they talk about flow, they're talking about consistently being there. Okay. And the flow is where's your database? Where are they at? Okay. And we talked about that last week, is you really have to look at each individual. Oh, by the way, I did tape up my opportunities on the new opportunities on the wall in my bedroom. So I see it many, many times. And I've also put a copy in my office. So if you haven't done that step yet, where you look at your database, go through it and analyze each person that's in there, and really think about where they are in their life, and is there an opportunity that you can help them with? And it doesn't have to be immediate, right? It could be something 5 years down the road, but you've got to physically look at that and really see it. Okay, so let's jump in, and we'll understand how flow works, okay, when it comes to the real estate side. And I'm actually referencing Ninja Selling, okay? So I'm going to go through some of this and please, listen to it. So understand, okay, you got clients or customers that are out there and they're thinking about, they're just starting to think. So are they in flow? No, but here's what happens, okay? So you have them just starting, start thinking about doing something, okay? So here's what takes place is you have people that are just starting. So the next morning as they drive to work, they notice a yard sign in front of properties for sale for the first time in years. And the reason they notice it is because what are they thinking about now?
Conversation.
Not even your conversation. They're just thinking about maybe making a move, okay? Reference that to buying a car. I can tell you that until you are interested in buying a car, you do not see the cars that are on the road. But all of a sudden you go out and you go, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to look at buying a Jeep. And it's going to be a all of a sudden you're out and you haven't even bought it yet. And you're going, oh, there's a Jeep. Oh, there's another one. Oh, I like that color, right? So what are you doing? What is that consumer doing? They're creating flow, right? They're basically creating flow. So here's what happens in real estate. The next morning, as they drive to work, they notice yard signs in front of properties for sale for the first time in years. And I'm going to reference this. John has a breakfast meeting, and as he walks into the restaurant, he picks up a Homes for Sale magazine. Okay. Now John and Mary are surfing the internet and scoping out neighborhoods. Okay. So buyers like them go through 4 stages. Okay. They go through 4 stages of process of buying. First step is curiosity. Okay. Second step is interest. So the curiosity, and then it piques their interest, and then that creates desire. And the last stage is commitment. Okay. So in this case, John and Mary have moved from curiosity to serious interest. At this point, they have some questions and feel they need to talk to a realtor. But who should they call? Okay. Who is the first realtor to pop into their mind? It will be the realtor who was most recently in flow with them. Okay. So here's what happens. And this happens. I'm actually going to give you a real life example of this at the end. It just happened to me. Okay. So John says, I'll call Justin. I just talked with him at Rotary. Or Mary says, oh, I'll call Heather. She'll know the answers. I just saw her at the health club. Or they may decide to call Tim because that day they received a real estate newsletter. Okay. Those are the realtors that are in flow with them right now. And those are the realtors they will consider calling. Unfortunately, they are not thinking about the realtor they worked with 9 years ago who did a good job for them, unless that realtor has stayed in flow. Okay. This is real life stuff. Okay. This happens. Okay. And I'm going to add this in. Okay. Here's some good news and here's some bad news for you. Okay. The fact that most customers select their realtor based on flow is really good news for rookies. As a rookie, you can drop into this business, set up a good flow system, and be successful for your very first year as long as people like you and trust you. Unfortunately, this is bad news for the old pro who thinks that because he did a great job for his customer 9 years ago, they will stay loyal to him. Have you ever heard of the old pro say, those are my people? As if they were branded cattle. He figures they carry his brand, and as they roam around the marketplace, they will return to his corral. That's not reality. Okay. Customers don't see it that way. In contrast, The productive old pro ninja knows he has to earn his business every day. That's flow. Are you doing it? Okay. So here's one of the things that you really have to understand. And and that's why when I say this is really, really relationship driven. Okay. So I'm going to share a bunch of stuff with you. Okay. Flow builds relationships. Think about your best friends or your kids. The more you interact with them, the stronger the bond, the stronger the relationship. The same is true with your customers. Flow is the lifeblood and oxygen of your relationship and your business. Okay. Flow is what makes you visible and keeps you top of mind. There are two kinds of flow: auto flow and live flow. Okay, before I give you the answers, let's talk about that. What do you think auto flow is?
Drip campaigns,
Drip campaign, okay.
month, Julia.
Julia? Oh, you're on mute there.
Newsletters, happy birthdays, and just saying hi.
Right, right. So auto, absolutely. So auto stuff, auto emails, automatic, birthday that goes out. Okay. So here's what we know.
But of course,
Okay. So auto flow. How many do you think auto flow you should do per month?
Minimum one.
Minimum one? Okay, minimum one. Throw out some numbers. What do you think auto flow should be per month?
well, this like.
Does it include Facebook?
It'll wipe out the load.
Like posts that you would
Depending
do?
on how, yeah, depending on how you're using Facebook. Are you, with Facebook, are you doing direct messaging? Are you engaging? Are you just liking or just posting?
I was thinking of posts that people that follow you would see.
So.
Okay.
Okay, so.
There's background.
Well,
We're going to cover that.
I don't know, I'm guessing
Email is 47, both non-smokers.
16 a month.
With an initial life policy of
16 a month?
Yeah.
They plan to save money into it.
16 a month for auto flow would be excessive.
Yeah.
Okay, because then you're actually bombarding people with frivolous information. And I'm going to cover that. And that's where some of the stuff that you might be, if you're referencing Facebook as doing posts, that's going to be different than auto flow because you're actually hopefully putting out not generic information. You're doing, some may be generic, but some of it may be very specific. Okay. One is too low. I thought one would be just fine, and that's why I put out my monthly newsletter thinking, okay, I'm in flow. Well, I got news for you, I'm not. 3 per month. Okay, auto flow, 3 per month. So how much flow do I need to become the realtor of choice? Our research of top producers indicates you need a minimum of 3 auto flow touches per month. The days of sending one mailing a month are over. People live in a media swirl, and to be heard above the noise takes 3 touches a month. Many top producing agents average 1 touch per week. Okay, which is a lot higher number than I thought it needed to be. Okay. They recommend these touches be a combination of mail, so direct mail, email, okay, and that you set them up on a calendar for the entire year. So set it, forget it, okay? That way you're not spending your time trying to figure out what to send each month. Set it and forget it, it's automatic. That's why it's called auto flow. Okay. So Kathy, part of what you're talking about Facebook, you can go into Facebook, I believe, and set up when you can send out something.
Yep, scheduled
Right.
posts.
Scheduled posts. So if you know in your calendar that part of your auto flow is you're setting up a scheduled post,
And that strategy is.
then that would classify under auto.
Yeah, I would say a good example of a social media post that would be technically an auto flow would be the market stats. That's something that you would only do once a month. That adds to your 3 touch points. And because a lot of us on this call do our they break it down into different areas in your community. I know Alroy does this really well.
Okay.
You can then use that to what I am sure we are going to talk about in direct flow, which is more private messaging, and just send it to, someone that lives maybe in Westport, and you're doing that market stat and you're like, oh, did you see this come up? Just wanted to make sure you saw that. Whatever.
Excellent. Okay. So auto flow keeps you visible even when you are invisible. On vacation, for example, your customers are still getting your newsletters, your market updates, and so on. Okay, so that's auto flow. You need to put that into your scheduling. Okay. One of the things to keep here, I'm just going to give you an example, and this is, so one of the top realtors in Denver shared that after taking the ninja selling class, which we are sort of doing, okay, I'm your ninja leader. We are, she began her 3 per month flow program with her database, as well as in the neighborhood where she lives, so geo farming. Okay. Within a year, her business went to an even higher level because she was capturing more than 50% of all the new listings in her neighborhood. So, we talk about geo farming. Okay. So farming a neighborhood. And I've talked about 500 houses, 1,000. Some people want to do like, James does 3,500. And, my whole thing was, 1 a month. You should be out there 1 a month. Well, 1 a month doesn't work. So in this farm area, she was hitting it every 3 weeks, 3 times a month. So basically 3 weeks on, 1 week off. And when James Cavanaugh, when he talked about doing when he gave us, talked about his geo farming, it's exactly what he was doing. He was doing 3 weeks on, but he would do it starting in November because he's trying to capture that listing in February, March. So he knew he had to get his flow going in November. So he did 3 weeks on in November, a week off, 3 weeks on in December, a week off, 3 weeks on in January, a week off, 3 weeks on in February, a week off. Well, that led to a bunch of appointments and listings. And then when the market, and he did that for many years. And then when the market changed, he also said, I backed off because my flyers weren't working that well anymore. He backed off. Well, since then, he's actually been losing listings. So when I talked with him about it, he said, yeah, he said, I lost the momentum in my area because I backed off. And so here's an interesting part. Okay, after several years of success, the agent thought maybe she could cut back on her flow, back off on her expenses, save the money, because she was getting the business. She kept her 3 per month for her friends and customers, but reduced her flow to once a month for the neighborhood. The next year, her share of neighborhood listings fell to less than 12% from 50%. So, look at if you're doing geo farming, okay, really important to one, you got to watch your expenses, but you've got to track everything that you're doing, because sometimes cutting back on that kind of stuff, you're going to lose the business. So you were better off to keep your expenses up, keep doing that marketing, keep having that flow to have the business. Okay. So I found that very interesting. Okay. Now, in addition to the 3 mailings or emails per month, the auto flow, they recommend a minimum, and don't fall off your chairs right now, okay? They recommend a minimum of 50 live interactions per week. Yeah, 50, 50, not 5, 50. Okay? And those are face-to-face or on the phone. Okay? And so what happens is people all of a sudden go, oh, geez, Scott, I'm just trying to get 5 people into my database a week. We're talking about top producing the 1-2% of realtors in North America. This is what they do. Okay?
Did you say per week or month?
Per week.
I would run out of population.
I wouldn't be able to sleep.
Okay, so let's talk about this, okay? So if we look at live interactions, okay, 50 a week. So every person you interact with counts as long as you do the forward questions and listen, right? Everybody still remembers those forward questions? What are they?
Forward.
So what are they? What's the first one?
Family,
Family,
Occupation.
occupation,
Creation and dream.
recreation, and dream. Well done. Thank you. Okay, so think about that. Okay.
And write it down, please.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's just go through some of this stuff. So let's take your typical week. Okay. So they do an example here. So at your weekly service club meeting, let's say, if you're part of a service group or you're part of, Julia, if you're doing one of your meetings, okay? And if you sat around and you're at a table or you were interacting with 10 people, as long as you're asking those questions, that's 10 of the 50. Okay? So now you look and you start talking to them about those, you ask them those questions. Well, that's 10 of your 50. Now let's say you have listings. You're going to call your sellers with feedback. You're going to call your sellers and talk with them every week. So let's say you had 3 listings and you're calling. Well, you now have 3 sellers that you've called weekly and you've asked them the same questions and you've given them update. Well, that's 3. Okay. So now if you have buyers, if you're following up with your database of buyers, let's call it, okay. So you've got your flow chart of buyers that you're going to be chatting with. So let's say you communicate with them and there's 4 of them and you're giving a weekly update or asking them where they're at. That's another 4. So let's say you do an open house and 2 or 3 people come through the open house. As long as you're asking them questions, that counts towards the 50. Okay. So now you're at, if you're at a different event or you're somewhere and you start church or a hockey game or somewhere and you start talking to people and you're have a conversation with them, that counts. These are not real estate conversations. That's where people get confused. Okay. These are not conversations to somebody about buying and selling real estate. These are 50 conversations, just interactions using the forward question. Okay. So, so if you look at that and you think about that, and yeah, maybe in some communities, 50 is the only size of the whole community. So maybe that's not going to work. But think about if it's not 50, how many should you be doing? Okay. So one of the things to look at is 50 should be your target. Okay. But if you're afraid of 50, start with 20. Don't do just 5 or 10. You can do that in a day. Nancy, if you went out to your local restaurant, sat there all day, you'd talk to more than 10 people, right?
Yeah, if I sat there all day, I'd probably talk to 50.
So,
Well, there you go, right?
Well, the grocery store is my jackpot. That's where I talk to most of the people.
Then, so between now and next Thursday, you are going to track this number. Okay, this is a number that we need to know. You need to know it, we need to know it so we can guide you. So starting today, you're going to track how many people you have live, okay, live flow conversations with. And I think you're going to be surprised it's more than you think. Understanding these are not conversations about real estate. They might lead to a conversation about real estate, but they're not a conversation about real estate. They're a conversation just about exactly Ford. You know, hey, how's the family doing? You know, how's work? Hey, one question would be, did you get called back in? You know, that counts as one. Okay, so we need to track that. Okay, so realistically, okay, all you're doing is you're trying to have these conversations to be able to try and start having flow with these people. They may not even be on your radar for any type of real estate. Doesn't matter. What you're trying to do is have flow with people who, if they never do anything, doesn't matter. But if all of a sudden they're somewhere and someone says, oh, you know, we were thinking about downsizing, what happened? You're in flow with that person. So who comes to top of mind? Right? That's the whole idea of this, okay? So 50 should be the number, but track it, okay? Because then you got to set a goal for yourself on doing this every week. But we got to figure out where you are first, just naturally what you're doing. Okay. So I can't wait to, hear the numbers next. Okay. So this is what we have now. We now have 3 mailings or emails per month. So that's your auto flow. Then you're going to have, let's call it 50 live interviews per week. So your live flow. Okay. But again, let's track it. It's because each individual person may have a different number, but we got to track it. And whatever you're doing just naturally, if the number that you're going to set for yourself and we're going to set for you is going to be higher than what you're currently doing. Okay. And the reason it has to be higher is because if you keep doing what you're doing, you are going to get, you think the same results, you're actually going to go backwards. So we have to help you get to where you're increasing your flow. So for us to do that, we need to know, and you need to know, what naturally are you doing each week? So just track it, okay? So here's where we're at. So now you're looking at, okay, making sure that your messages are 3 a month, okay? And that's your auto flow, that's your generic stuff. And then you're going to be doing personable messaging, okay? And so, we talked about, Kathy, you said, well, let's do like 16 a month. If it's just generic stuff, that's overkill and they'll just tune you out. Okay. Whereas if you had 3 generic, but then all of a sudden you had 3 or 4 personable ones that are directly at them, that builds the flow. Okay. So here's what we have to look at. So you got to make sure that the information is meaningful and ideally personable to them. Okay. So when designing a powerful program for the best flow, here are 4 criteria. Okay, valuable. The best flow offers value, solves a problem or feels good. And that is where it's not the generic part. Okay, but it may be, like you could, your newsletter absolutely could have some good information. If it's generic enough. Okay. Number 2 is customized. The more customized a flow item is, the more powerful it is. Making them unique to the receiver is the key. For examples, nearly everyone values market statistics, but people want to know what is going on in their particular market. Market statistics solve a problem. They're even more valuable when the statistics are customized for a particular neighborhood or home. Okay? Personalized. Make these market statistics even more powerful by writing the receiver a personal note and including it with the statistic. Now, I found this one very interesting. Number 4 is a combination of art and science. Okay. What would you say examples of art would be?
Maybe they're not very good at managing money, or maybe there's
A show that you've seen at the theater,
maybe
like a play or
Possibly. So
something?
so this is what you're setting. So art would be personal notes, including relevant news articles, tickets and giveaways, calendars, including sports and entertainment, notepads, ice cream coupons for the kids, happy birthday and happy anniversary cards, coupons and gift certificates, invitations to events. Okay. What would science be? Some ideas of what the science would be? Okay. Neighborhood locator maps, quarterly neighborhood statistics, newsletters about the market, how to invest in real estate, financing and refinancing information, just listed, just sold cards, annual real estate review, classes and events such as investment classes, new home design classes, and so on. Okay. Many realtors tend to send out the type of items they enjoy if they are relationship oriented. So art, they'll give birthday cards, calendars, personal notes. If they are more analytical, then they tend towards market stats, financing information, investment information. Okay. The fact is your clients need both art and science. Sending a combination of these items is most powerful. So look at what you are sending or posting and make sure it's a combination of. Okay. How are we doing? Any questions so far? Everybody's already doing this, so I can stop.
My question is, so for the art and science portion, I specifically have been dealing with a lot of engineers. They're very analytical, very numbers oriented. That's not usually how I would be. So do I structure my science based on kind of what they gravitate towards or what I enjoy doing, if it's not the same?
I would gravitate it to personalize it to them.
To that. Yeah.
Right.
Since they're analytical, could it be that maybe you send them, hey, here's a listing, let's say it's a condo, 400,000. This is what's going to carry per month on a mortgage, including your maintenance and taxes. Maybe sending them that kind of data where they can be like, oh, these are numbers I can understand.
Yeah, I'm thinking more so like, how do I make the generic stuff interesting if my entire database is analytical and I'm not?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
maybe cost per square foot, like break down the numbers for them because they're going to love that.
right.
Okay. So here is some tips for putting your flow into action. And this is very interesting, actually. Mail, so direct mail tends to be more effective than email. It is more expensive. Direct mail is making a comeback, actually, because there is less of it today than 10 years ago. Today, it is junk email that is filling everyone's inbox. You are actually more different with regular mail, snail mail today. So they recommend you use a combination of mail and email in your flow system. Yep.
So as a team, we send out a physical direct mailer. And last year I put on a few of my friends on that list just to kind of get, the conversation going. I joined the team, obviously. So, but then I also started my email campaigns for first-time homebuyers that's my friends. I never get a message from them when they receive my email. I always get a picture of the direct newsletter that they get in the mail, letting me know that they've received it.
And here's the interesting part. What age group?
25 to 27.
Right? So, okay. Only 18% of real estate emails are ever open. 18. Okay. So really important that you make your message. So the message part is prominent in the subject line. And the preview window, if there happens to be something. Try to avoid attachments whenever possible. People are very, very leery of opening up attachments.
As are certain email servers.
Yes.
You'll see that a lot of Gmail accounts now, even if you're adding images or whatever, they'll flag it and say, does this look safe? So yeah, most of the emails that I get from either coaches, real estate coaches or anything like that, they don't include images.
Okay. With direct mail, other than personal notes, design your mailings as postcards. Okay. Design them as postcards. Anybody know why? Throw out some ideas. Why instead of a sealed envelope with just their address on the front, if you send it out as a postcard?
The envelope
Yeah.
requires them to take another step. They won't do that. Postcard,
Good
they can look at
point.
the front, flip it around, done with it. People are lazy. If it's a two-step process, they'll never get to step 2.
Good point. Nancy, comment?
I was going to say more along the lines of if they don't see like a return address or anything like that, that could hit the recycle bin. Whereas a postcard, it's like it's right there glaring. Like it's like, this is what it's about. Here it is.
Okay. You guys get a star.
Oh.
When your friends and customers go to their mailbox and they see your face, name, and company, you have made an impression. You are in flow, even if you only make it from the mailbox to the recycling bin. There you go. Okay. Really good point, because, especially these super mailboxes where they're basically just going, oh,
Once a week.
like, oh, but if they keep seeing your face, like even in a condo, right? If you're gonna send it out to a condo, they're in their mail room and they're basically, the recycle bin is the biggest thing in that room. And they're basically just going, nope, nope. But if they keep seeing your face and you are there consistently, what happens in flow? What happens we talked about the 4 steps of a buyer, right? We talked about the car. You don't see the car until all of a sudden what? You're now thinking about it. So if you are consistently in sending out postcards and they keep seeing your face, your logo, your name, then if and when all of a sudden they get curious and your postcard happens to be there, what are you doing? You've just created flow. Nancy.
This is a question, I don't know, maybe Herb, whoever. Those super boxes that you have in the city for Canada Post, do you have the option to not get junk mail?
Yes.
Okay. Just curious about that. Because like here, everything's a PO box. And you have the option to say no unaddressed mail at all. And I've seen not very often because they wisened up. There was one realtor that was sending out unaddressed mail, and it was you should have seen the recycle bin. It broke my heart actually.
Okay.
That our super box, we don't have, they're all outside. We don't have recycling bins or anything. So everyone's got to take their mail.
Oh, that's a good point, because if it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
We have one, a blue bin right there.
Oh, do you really?
There's a garbage bin, but
Yeah.
it's recycled.
Yeah, and
Right
it's
there next to the-
always
next to
stuffed.
the-
Yeah.
It's stuffed. However, to answer your question too, Nancy, the ones that do receive the flyers and all that, there's two agents in my area that absolutely dominate, and they're always, every week, I go to my mailbox, and sure enough, they have a flyer there of their sold that they've done. And that's all they're doing. They're just putting the picture of the house sold and their contact information, and that's it. And yet they are dominating the area.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
and I
John.
guess the ones that are in the recycle bin, I mean, it is what Scott just said. They're still seeing it, but then to go back
They're
to
still
the
seeing
earlier point, they stopped. So I mean, there's a compound thing here that we've discussed today.
yeah. John, question, comment?
Yeah, I just want to further that. After selling a property, what on the postcard side, what would be the maximum length of time that it's no longer appropriate to send out a sold postcard on a property?
Well, first of all, you need to make sure that you have permission from both parties, right? To do any type of advertising, you got to make sure that you have permission from both parties to do the marketing. And I believe now, if you really want to make sure, I'm seeing this more often, where listing agents are attaching, I believe it's Form 170. I'll double check, but there's now a form that I'm seeing a lot of listing agents are asking to be part of the agreement, which is the permission consent to advertise. Okay. I'm going to suggest, depending on how you're doing that, what information you're putting on, John, on that. would
Like a just
determine
sold
the-
postcard.
I can tell you that in my neighborhood, I still get once a year, I will get something from 2 or 3 of the top agents that just says thank you for our 2025 activity. And they will list sold, and some of them are easily 10 months old. But
Okay.
they're referencing their activity. And they will put the month, sold in Jan, sold in Feb, sold in, so as a timeline, I haven't seen anything in writing that says it has to be no later than this. And that would really depend on the actual disclosure or permission that you got,
Yeah,
what
okay,
you can
thank you.
say. Okay. Think about budgeting, okay, because you obviously, for flow, you've got to think about a budget. And so you need to look at, and that's part of your business planning, should be looking at your budget for the year. So now if we take,
Yeah.
okay, so what you have to do is take a look at your calendar for the year, and just like the one behind Nancy's head, and make sure that you put on there, what are your auto, okay? What's your auto flow? That's got to be built out for the year. Okay, then it's a matter of, okay, then what's my live flow? And then once we know after this week, we're going to know what your typical week is, okay, for your live flow. And then we got to look at, okay, what's my budget? What do you think a budget should be per person in your flow database per month?
$1,000. How?
How much?
Billion.
$5? $5? Okay,
Person,
okay. So let's talk about that.
everything this way.
Okay, so if you're sending direct mail. Okay. So if you're sending direct mail once a month, what's that cost? I can tell you that the company I was using that unfortunately just decided they're not doing direct mail anymore. It was costing me $1.67 per newsletter. Okay, and that's them producing it and mailing it out with direct mail, proper name. Okay, so let's say that's $2. Let's call it $2 now. Okay, so and then your other pieces could be email. What's that cost? Nothing, right? So now you've got, if you use any type of CRM program, Prime Agent, then you've got your automation that's built into it. So you can build that out. So now if you look at it and really say, okay, what else then if I start doing my other live stuff, or you start doing more personable items, are you maybe another couple bucks? So $5 may not be far off, right? So how many people are in your database? So we can throw out a number. How many people are in your database?
100.
100. Okay. Right? So if it's 100, right? So you got 100 and you're spending $5 a month for these 100. So you're spending $500 a month to really work your database properly. Okay. Well, here's an interesting stat for you. Okay. And this has been proven. And this is from 50,000 realtors. Okay. So this isn't like 5 realtors. This is actually stats from 50,000 realtors across North America. Okay. Who are using this ninja system. And here's the interesting part. They have 200 people in their database. Okay. And they say that if I have 200 people in my database, I should be making $1,000 a year per person in my database. Okay. So if you're spending $5, and actually, ironically, in their particular analysis, they did the actual budget, it came in at $2. So, yeah, $2 US, so $5 Canadian.
$10 Canadian.
So if you look at this and you say, okay, you should be making $1,000 if you're doing the flow properly, really working it and really getting to know your relationships, and you have 100 people, you should be making $100,000 a year just from your database, doing nothing else, spending $5 a month. Are you doing that? It actually worked out for these 50,000 people that were surveyed, agents that were surveyed, and that had 200 people in their database. They were all making at least $200,000 a year. But they are working and really working the ninja system. Okay. So if we look at your flow system and really look at the flow system, you don't have to spend a lot of money unless you are doing the geo farming. That's separate than what the $5 a month is. Okay. This is really just working your database with the auto flow and live flow. Sounds like a pretty good business plan. And I can pretty well guarantee most of us are not doing it. I know I'm not. Right?
You were gonna give us an example of how it works. Or it worked, or something in the beginning you said.
Yeah, how it didn't work for me.
Didn't?
I'm gonna explain to you why, okay? Anyway, so here's what you need to look at, okay? I'm just gonna do one simple little bit of a override here to let you know, okay, how this works. Okay. So there is one way ninjas can be successful without doing the 3 mailings or emails per month. They override the system with more powerful flow, more live interviews, either face-to-face or on the phone. Live flow is more powerful than auto flow. So here's the pecking order. Okay, so you design your own flow. There's not one right answer for everybody. Number one is face-to-face. That's the most powerful. Number two is voice-to-voice. Number three is text. Number four is snail mail, direct mail. 5 is email and social media. 6 is advertising. That's the lowest. And this is all from the survey that the agents did. Okay. So the ninjas who don't do the 3 emails and mailings per month override the system by doing something far more dramatic, making typically 50 to 100 live calls a day.
Where's Gary?
And we have I can tell you there's one person in Realty Executives that follows this ninja. It's Gary Cirillo in Vaughan. And he does this. So anyways, so there you go. I can tell you that hopefully you'll understand the importance of this. Does it make sense? Is there something you can implement into your business today? Better be. Okay. So project is between now and next week. You got to put together your auto flow chart for the year. And I guarantee you, once I say this next statement, half of you won't show up.
Yeah, we'll come next week.
Okay? So next week, you got to be in a position to be able to share what your auto flow is and what the items are. You don't need to be specific and say, well, here's my newsletter, but you need to share what is your monthly auto flow and when is it scheduled for. Fair enough? And be able to share what your natural, without changing anything, what your natural live flow is for a week. Okay, fair enough? Nobody's answering.
Mhm. Yes, sir.
Absorbing the information.
We're nodding.
Thank
We're nodding.
I was
Okay.
writing all that down.
Okay, good. This will help you do business. This is going to make your business better.